We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
Welcome
morning.
to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani.
And I'm Danielle.
And we come to you every single morning for about 30 minutes of powerful, packed, inspirational, encouraging, life-changing, transformational, monumental, metamorphosis.
Come on,
type
keep going, keep going.
I mean, I ran out of words.
Oh, come on. I thought you was a poet and didn't know it.
I'm a poet and didn't know it, y'all. But welcome, we're here for another great day. How you guys doing? I know you're tuning in from all over the world.
Yes, and I just want to invite you, especially my new people, to like, share, and subscribe, and also hit that notification bell. When you come on, just introduce yourself. Say, hey, we're here coming in from wherever you're coming in from, because we like to find out where y'all are tuning in from. Our mission is to spread this message internationally across the globe to make sure that everybody who is in need knows where to go to get some support. So thank you for doing that. And I want to welcome some of my early risers who always show up on time. Dee Dee, good morning. Good to see you. Gigi, hello. Essence, Clarence, Ralph Welsh from Ohio, Facebook user, good morning. Zach, hello from Ohio. And Lolita from Tennessee. We got them coming in left and right. Thank you for joining us today.
Today we're talking about, we're talking on the subject of, is your marriage doomed? I think that this is an important question because many people find themselves in a situation where they're ready to throw in the towel, call quits, and just give up. And out of desperation, they're either going to do something they've never done and invest all, or they're going to give up. And so we want to talk about what those signs look like, how to really assess where you are. There's a phenomenal book by Shirley Glass. She talks about infidelity, and in there she has a vulnerability test. And so in that test she identifies 16 different signs. We're not going to cover them all today, but if you're experiencing any of these signs, is this a possibility that your relationship is doomed? And if so, what do you do about it? And so as we were preparing for the show, we were like, man, we done hit these probably 2-3 times over.
I think it's about our perspective, right? When we hear these tips, this is a tip to help you be aware, okay, there's some red flags in my relationship. I need to actually look at these things. Does it mean that your marriage is doomed? I don't think so, because I think pretty much every one of those we hit at some point in our relationship. Yeah. I mean, we're going on almost 20 years here. It's a long time trying to figure out how to do marriage right. So you're going to hit a lot of these points, but we just want you to be aware of where you are. Because if you are somewhere that we need to think about and try to figure out how can I get straight before it gets to the next level.
And I think the key is, you said, we are trying now to do marriage right, because for so long we've done marriage wrong. Right. And that's a part of the problem. So let's go straight into the conversation. Number one, we had problems trusting each other before we got married. Now, let me tell you something. Trust is one of the foundational pillars. It's like the cornerstone of a healthy relationship. And many people struggle with trust for many reasons. Like, truth be told, trust can be, or the lack of trust, distrust, mistrust, can be birthed within the relationship because of things that have gone wrong. But oftentimes we bring trust in, or trust issues in, from previous relationships, and we hold our present partner hostage to past situations that we didn't overcome.
Right. It's almost like, if you did something illegal, right? There's the first strike, some petty crime, and then the second strike, you're in big trouble because you did this twice, right? It's the same way in relationships. If you came in with mistrust baggage, right? That's the first strike. Somebody burns you bad, somebody hurt you bad, then you get into a new relationship, and here this person's doing it all right. Then they, cause you to lose trust. Now it's like you're 2 strikes out. It's almost like guilty by association. Yeah. Association of lying or guilt or doing anything that would cause the mistrust. And so that's a huge one. And I even remember early in our relationship how I was like hiding all kinds of stuff because I was just like, Hassani came so straight-laced, And I was just like, oh man, you know, do I say this? Do I tell him that? Do I tell him about my background? Like all these things. He didn't come from the same background as I came from. He didn't come from a broken family. He never experienced being homeless. He didn't experience my journey, you know? So there were a lot of things that we went through that we had to kind of peel those layers, and I had to get comfortable actually learning how to trust you with my truth.
Yeah, and not hearing the truth up front, I had to learn how to trust her after being told something that wasn't accurate. So either you're bringing it in from the past, or you're developing trust issues within your relationship. And what it does, it puts a vulnerability in your relationship, and you can work through it, you can overcome it, but it takes time. And to develop trust, right, when it's been broken, we say it all the time, it's like a light switch and a dimmer. When you lose it like that. It's like a light switch that just went out. But to regain it, it's like a dimmer, and it increases over the course of time. And so if you're dealing with trust issues in your relationship, it's a sign that something is not necessarily right, and there's a vulnerability you need to talk about. Let's go to the next one. Our marriage revolves around our children.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think about that, and I think every woman can say there was a time in their life where both your child and your husband wanted your breasts at the same time, and you had to choose who gets to play. Do you know what I'm saying? And so that's a big deal, where it starts at the foundation when the child comes, right? How do you establish those boundaries to make sure that there is proper, decent order in your home? We make a lot of mistakes during that phase, whether it's allowing the baby to sleep in your bed, and now that baby is taking precedence over the marriage bed, and you know, you're split by that child, and you know, now it's 3 and 4 years old, the child still is in your bed, and you have a heart tie to the child. You don't want to break their heart, but then your spouse is over there feeling angry. It was recent that I talked to one of my clients' husbands who said they just don't think that they can ever compete with their daughter. And I thought, wow, that's so interesting how men think that way. Women, we think it's crazy for you to think you're in competition. We both love this child. I am his mother. There are certain needs that this child has that only I can provide. And I'm talking about when they're little. We have a hard time understanding how men become jealous of the child.
Let me break it down. Because you have to understand, when you first got married, it was just you and your partner. You were partners with one another, right? And then you take off your wife hat and your dad and you take off your wife hat and your husband hat. You have that child, and you put on your mommy and your daddy hat. So the attention that you used to give each other now goes directly to the child. The affection that you used to share with one another now goes to the child.
Right.
You know, the resources, the time, everything goes to the child. So it becomes less of a horizontal relationship and more a vertically down to the child relationship.
Yes.
And so husbands do feel like, well, what about me?
Right, but then the wives struggle because they're like, well, what about me? Here I am with all these weights on me. You know, depending on how many children I have the weight of all the children's needs. I have the weight of the world on me because maybe I have jobs outside the house. I have the weight on all the responsibilities that come with the children that aren't necessarily their particular needs, and the weight of your needs. So it is a real issue. There are lots of solutions that we have come across to help find the balance. I don't think that there is a perfect balance, period. I honestly don't believe in balance.
It's a balancing act.
It's a balancing act. You know, we're constantly doing this, but I think that if we're pliable and we're willing to do the balancing act, I think that makes a big difference.
And so, you know, you have to understand also, a lot of times people prioritize the family over the marriage.
Yes.
So once those kids come out, it's all about the kids. It's all about the family. And then you have a very child-centered marriage where everything that you do as a couple revolves around the child, which takes away time, takes away intimacy. And then what happens after 18 years and that child has grown up and he or she leaves, what do you have between
Nothing.
you? You have a co-parenting relationship, no longer the companionship that started the relationship.
Also, before the person is 18 and grows up and leaves, you have trained that child to be the division between you in many cases, right? So you lean into that child, and now the child is in the middle of arguments and all kinds of things, and that child is the person that knows how to lean on mom when they need to, or lean on dad, and it just causes the divide, so that when they do leave, not only do you not know each other because you invested so much time in that child, but in addition to that, you have resentment because you chose that child over me.
And this is what we call the empty nest syndrome, where even though the children are still in the house, you're creating a scenario by the time they leave. You know what? I'm ready to leave because I don't even know you anymore. Noreen says, wow, so much truth to what you said about us mamas and our kiddos. You're speaking straight to my soul this morning.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to balance being a mom and being exhausted and working and trying to be the perfect wife and all these things. But this is why we say there is no real balance. It's finding the balancing act. It's learning how to accommodate each other's needs so that both of you have the energy that you need to do what is necessary.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to the next point. I hope you're getting something out of this conversation. Number 3, my partner spends too much time away from home. Now, this was a huge issue that we had because, I was traveling a lot when we first got married, because before we got married, I was like a speaker, and I would travel speaking for conferences and colleges and churches, and I'm gone. And so when we got married, many people said, all right, Susanna, you need to slow down. You got a wife now, you got kids on the way. And I was just like, well, that's my bread and butter. That's how I hustle. That's how I get out here and do my thing.
Right.
And so there was distance.
Oh, yeah.
And when you have physical distance, it can literally create emotional distance. And then, Danielle's bearing all the responsibilities, in the home with the kids, just everything.
Well, here we go. I mean, it's almost like it's the other side of the equation, right? Like Danielle's home with the kids, running everything, and one kid on this boob and another kid on that boob, and he's gone.
Hey, there's no more boobs left.
There's no more boobs left for
That's
you when you get back from being on the road, right? After it was easy street, because I remember saying to you a lot, man, must be nice, checked into these nice hotels while I'm over here struggling with babies on my boobs. Must be nice, but I'll be ready with heels when you get back. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But listen, guys, we have a lot more of this coming up on the other side. We want to hear from you. What are the struggles that you're dealing with? Do you think that you're doomed? Do you see hope for yourself? What are some of the struggles? Because I know you know what we're talking about. We'll see you right after this break.
Hey guys, we're back. We're just chuckling over here doing these breaks because this is some real stuff. We've been living this thing, man.
And the hardest part of it is that, our daughter Madison is a phenomenal, brilliant, artistic mind, and she is our producer. So sometimes when I'm talking, I'm like going down this road, and then I'm like, skirt, go over here. Some things you don't really want to, y'all
for real. But listen, many of the couples who come to us struggle. They never bring this up as an issue, but it always comes out, and it's the issue of time. And so many people have a time-starved marriage. So when we talk about being away from the home, a lot of times couples are working completely different shifts. Like I'm working from 9 to 5, but you work from 4 to midnight or 4 to 1, and we're just passing each other. We only see each other on the weekends. Or maybe we live in different parts of the country, like we're bi-coastal. You're in one state, I'm in another state, and we see literally outside of the United States, if you're from the Caribbean, if you're from Europe and Asia and Africa, it's very common to literally leave, go to another country, and to really work and then send money back home. And that huge disconnection really creates a vulnerability in a relationship. And so it's so important that you try to get your schedules aligned, that you are in the same physical proximity often enough, because time is a glue that binds you two together.
Absolutely. Listen, I have to acknowledge we've got Henry coming in here from Stuttgart, Germany. Welcome,
Good to
Henry.
see you.
Good to see you. We also have some folks from Nigeria tuning in, and Curacao, which we love Curacao. Actually, I have some family from Curacao back in the roots of the family. But I want to get to a couple of your comments here, guys, because you guys are going through some things too. Angel says here, I see hope because we both a desire to be better and to do better. And that's a big thing. I mean, at the end of the day, all of these issues you've probably gone through in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And it gives you an idea of like, okay, these are warning signs. We want to get on the right path before these things spin out of control. It's even better when you're with somebody who sees these issues and will acknowledge them and wants to work on these things. That's all you need is partnership. You can overcome anything if you have agreement.
I think the number one characteristic that you should have in yourself and you should look for in your partner is someone who's committed to personal growth and development. If you want to be better, your relationship will be better, period, point blank. But there's nothing worse than when one wants it and the other doesn't, because your soulmate can feel like your cellmate when one of you refuses to grow. And so this is why we're talking about these things, to get you guys on the right track.
Angel says here, yep, LOL, yep, we know what you're talking about. And then Kia says, no more boobs left, LOL, because there's no more boobs left.
We need to fix that, because you know what, they're only two, and they reserve for your spouse.
Yeah, so let's go to the next comment.
Oh, the next point. All right, the next point. Here we go.
My partner rarely takes my side in anything. Now, listen, that's a personality style issue, guys, okay? I want you to learn to have some empathy when it comes to things like this, because let me tell you something about me. I'm a fighter. I'm a defender of what's right. I don't like it. I'm going to say something about it. I'm that person. I'll never forget the time when we went to the comedy club. The comedy guy had jokes. He was just doing his job, but he was really mean to this group of old ladies, okay? There was these old ladies. He was just coming for them over and over again. And guess what? They weren't laughing. Matter of fact, they stopped laughing a long time ago. So I was over there brewing for a minute by the time he came over here talking about us. And he started to joke on us because we were in the front row. Y'all, I stood up and I was about to take him on with the mic because I'm that one to defend, right? But Asani doesn't operate that way. He's not the one that's going to stand up and say, give me the mic. I got some jokes for you, buddy. Do you know what I mean? He's not that one. He's more methodical. He processes the thing out. In the beginning, that really ticked me off. Because if I'm ready to take my gloves off, take my earrings out, I mean, I'm not a violent person. I'm just getting to the point. I'm not really trying to fight anyone. But with words, if I'm ready to go toe-to-toe for you and to defend you, I want you to do the same thing. I had to learn his method of doing that.
Yeah, and I think that's important, because if you see, we want our spouse to be just like us. So if I'm a defender and protector, I need you to do it the way I do it. And if you don't do it the way I do it, then I'm not perceiving that you're doing it at all. And to your point, it is really a personality style. And when you're married to your method, that's when we get in trouble. You got to consider the fact that people have different methods or different pathways to get to the same destination. Right. And that's what's important.
And that is what's important, because at the end of the day, look at the resolution of the problem. And that's what I began to do. It's like, okay, we got to the same solution by going this route. I get it now. And those sometimes are the things we need to look at.
All right, let's go to the next point. We've grown apart. Now, I think overwhelmingly, if you've been married for 2 years or more, depending upon your situation, many people could say at some point they feel like things are just different. The in-love feeling is gone. Normalcy has set in. Things have just become monotonous. You're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. It feels as if we have grown apart. And so that's why you need to have glue, right? Creating stickability to keep you two together. Some of the things that you have to do to keep you two together so you're not growing apart, but you're growing with each other, we just talked about it, quality time. But then it's also recreational companionship, right? Going on dates and having shared hobbies. But then it's physical intimacy. That is a physical expression that keeps you two close together. But most importantly, it is the spiritual and an emotional piece. When you're spiritually aligned and emotionally connected, I don't care how far apart you are physically. I could be on a business trip, you could be on the other side of the world, but that emotional, spiritual connection is that glue that makes you feel inseparable.
Yeah, and we talk about this all the time. You know, people will say to you, oh, what happened? You've changed. You've changed. Before you used to be like this. You used to dress like this. You used to be this size. You used to do these things. You've changed. The issue is, why haven't you changed? We're supposed to change, y'all. We're supposed to develop and grow into new people. The issue is we need to change and grow together. And somewhere along the line, sometimes there's one person that has dug their heels deep into the ground and they've become immovable. They've stopped learning how to be teachable, right? They're stuck and you're moving on and people can't handle that. So the idea is to learn to be discoverers and explorers so that you can learn and grow together. That's the big difference.
You're watching the Couples Academy show. Hope you're getting something out of today's message. We've got one more segment. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Sign up today for the Better Marriage Club and receive exclusive access to the private Facebook group to get your questions answered and your problems solved. Access to our marriage library of live seminars. Watch the Couples Academy Daily Show. Call the help hotline for laser coaching. Get our weekly action guides and receive a private one-on-one call with one of our marriage coaches. To join the Better Marriage Club, simply text MARRIAGE to 973-490-4668. Join today. Your marriage deserves it.
Welcome back, everybody. You are watching the Couples Academy show, and I want to jump to a couple of comments, but before I do, I want to acknowledge Charlton from Zimbabwe tuning in, and I think I even saw St. Kitts tuning in somewhere too, but I'd love to acknowledge our watchers. Nicholas says, sometimes people do change, and we should change together. That's exactly the point. We should definitely change together. Kia says, testimony. He is trapped here in Texas due to the weather, LOL, and we have had 6 days of bliss by implementing the tools and both being intentional about getting to the other side. Thanks, guys.
Kia, we appreciate you. Kia
really
and her man, they are part of our Moving Forward program. They just did the Last Chance weekend, and it's so good to see where people actually take the information and the tools and they empower themselves to take their relationship to the next level. So David and Kia, we appreciate you.
We really do. So the next point here is have felt alone and unsupported at times of loss and crisis. And you can understand how difficult that may be. I mean, just a few years ago, I lost my mother. And of course, your mom, there's nobody closer to you than your mom. And I'm not a big crier. It takes a lot for me to cry unless I'm watching a sensitive movie, right? But, you know, when you've been through a lot of things, you have tough skin. So you don't necessarily cry so much with pain. With this one, it took me down, and it was wonderful to have not just my husband there to support me, to care about my pain, the journey that I was going through, to check in on me and make sure I was okay day after day, even when I stopped crying, even when the tears had dried up. When he saw me having quiet moments, to have my children do the same made all the difference and helped me feel close and supported. But on the opposite of that, if you don't have that, and you have to go through tough issues alone, that could be catastrophic. Sometimes we lose our job. Sometimes we're going through something in our bodies. When we don't have our spouses to support us, it is a catastrophe.
It really is. And so whether it's a loss of a job, whether it's a loss of a family member, or whether it's just a personal thing that you're struggling with, we all come into life, or not into life, but we all come into relationships from life experiences with our own stuff. And it feels good when you know you have somebody there who is compassionate, who has empathy, who's willing to support you when you're down to help you get back up. But when you don't have that type of connection or support, you can really feel lonely. And so you don't have to be alone to feel lonely. I would say people who are in a broken relationship may feel lonelier than people who are actually alone. Mm-hmm. And so this is why it's so important to really tune in with your spouse to see how they're doing that weekly checkup. Hey babe, how you feeling? What's going on with you? Is there anything that we could talk about? Any way I can help you? When you do those things, your relationship goes to the next level. All right, let's go to the next point. We don't have equal input for important decisions. Now, this is a huge one right here because some people are very controlling. They're very domineering. Some people have a parent-child relational dynamic in the household. So one's used to making decisions on their own and then telling their spouse what it's all about. Maybe because that's just how things play out in the relationship and that's just become the new norm. And so it's gotten to the point, well, since I'm the one making the decisions anyway, I'll make decisions for us without including you. Right. Or when I do include you, I have more influence, more power in the decision because I'm the one making the money. I'm the one making this happen. And we actually see that in couples who make quite a substantial amount of money, where one person owns a business or they're a high salary figure earner for a corporation, and their spouse may be playing the role of, raising the children, taking care of the home, or maybe they have a less income generating job. And so we see these power struggles that happen in relationships all the time. And a person could feel like just disrespected, devalued, and just dissed.
You know, not all the time does your spouse actually want to make the decision. That's really something important to acknowledge. But most people want to be involved, included in some way in the decision. Most people want to be brought to the table to have some understanding about why this decision is being made. And you know what your skills are and your giftings are too, right? If I have the giftings and the skills for the finances and I make the financial decisions, I would want to include Hassani in the conversation. He would be able to have input, but at the end of the day, he might say, you got this. This is your expertise. You go with it. And that's all people really want. Sometimes folks don't like being the one in the driver's seat. You often do have that in relationships where one person is the driver and the other person isn't. If you have two people that are driving, you're probably bumping heads a lot. So it's really about just opening up with that communication and bringing your spouse to the table so that they know what's going on.
Absolutely. Great point. And then our final point, we argue about the frequency of intimacy, sex, intimacy. That's what we're arguing about, and that's an issue for a lot of people. It's either about more or better.
Where's my mask at?
Yeah, you know what? We're gonna have to do something.
Just
What you? Huh? Y'all know what it is. Y'all know what it is. That's one of the biggest issues that people struggle with. In fact,
I can't keep up. I mean, but I do my best. Now we're gonna have a show on that. Because I'm not even talking to the men right now. Y'all go get a snack, okay? I'm talking to the women. I have learned.
How you gonna kick the men out the show and have them get a snack?
Let me get center right here. Excuse me, ladies. I have found the remedy. I got you if you're struggling with this. Tiredness, exhaustion, lack of interest, lack of desire, all those things, I got you. We're gonna do a show on that. Anything else you want to say?
Nope. Nope. Not at all.
Because we come with the solutions, okay? Not just the problems.
Yeah, we need an all-adult production cast up in here.
I'm gonna hire a new producer for that.
Yeah, for real. But hopefully you're getting something out of this. Now, here's the reality. Does this mean that your relationship is doomed? Well, if you do nothing about it, that's exactly what it means. The point is, along your journey, you have to assess where you are. Think about it. If you have a car full of a tank of gas and you're headed on a long journey, don't you have to fuel up?
Yes.
Every couple hours? Don't you have to make sure that all the levels are fine? Don't you have to check the dashboard to make sure that there are no lights on? You want to make sure that you're well equipped for this particular journey, and on that way, you check in. No different in a relationship. So your relationship does not have to be doomed as long as you're willing to do something about it. Now, we only covered 8. There's 8 more that we're going to talk about tomorrow. So tomorrow we're talking about Is Your Marriage Doomed Part 2. We see your questions. We're going to make sure we hit those tomorrow. So jump in early, share, like, subscribe. We want to let you know that we appreciate you.
You must have heard. You must have heard. She said, "What's up with the O shot? We're going to talk."
All right, well, there it is. Listen, guys, you're watching the Couples Academy show. See you on tomorrow.
If you would like to be a guest on our show, or if you're interested in one of our restoration programs, contact us today at couplesacademy.org.